How's it going, guys, and welcome to my new movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing a very special movie for you guys, and that film is the one and only 1922 Nosferatu.
If that was you on the phone and you on the bus, then who was flickering the lights? Nosferatu!
Nosferatu, however you want to pronounce it. I'm pronouncing it Nosferatu because I feel like it, and there's nothing you can do to tell me otherwise. But yeah, Nosferatu, so, oh man, where to begin? Before I give you guys my thoughts on this film, I guess it's pretty, appropriate to give you a little backstory on this film. Now, of course, this is a German Expressionist film, which is an era of movies that came out, like, in the early 1920s, and, there are movies like, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and among others. This was one of them, and this is quite a special movie. This film, believe it or not, was almost not made. Well, it was made, but it almost wasn't, there's like a whole backstory to it. Like, I'm not going to explain the whole thing to you, but basically, this movie almost was never released because it is an unauthorized adaptation to Bram Stoker's novel Dracula. And so there are people trying to stop it from happening, but you know, they released it anyway somehow. It's a long story. You can look that up if you want to look more into it. But despite a couple of lost movies that to this day have never been found, this film is the first vampire movie to ever come out in cinema history, and is honestly the best vampire movie to come out in cinema history. This was even before the Universal Dracula. You know, that came out in 1931 and was a part of the whole Universal Monsters era, along with Frankenstein's monster and the Mummy and the Wolfman and all those. This was way before that. Alright, now, if you guys know me, I've said it a bunch of times already in my reviews, I am not a huge vampire fan at all. In fact, I really don't like vampires in general. I don't know, they're just not that interesting to me at all. But, I gotta say, this film, I was so impressed. This is a very, very impressive film that is way, way ahead of its time. And actually, the reason why I'm reviewing this right now is because I just saw it like a couple days ago because, you know, it's Halloween, and on Halloween, I often like to watch a lot of, you know, old school horror films because, you know, they remind me of Halloween for some reason. Point being, I just saw this film for the first time recently, and and before I saw the film, I knew what Nosferatu was. I knew it was a vampire film, and I know all the iconic scenes and whatnot. I knew about the movie before I watched it, so not all of it was completely new to me. But holy crap, man, I did not expect it to be, you know, this good. In fact, this is one of the very first movies ever to actually be banned for being too scary. I forgot what country it was, but this movie was banned, like, for a long time. They just recently unbanned it because, you know, today it's not as scary. But back then, like, I can only imagine, like, how creeped out people were. I honestly was really creeped out watching this movie. In fact, I'm even gonna go as far as to say that this movie is honestly scarier than most horror movies that come out today. And that really, you know, tells you something about movies nowadays, is that, you know, they're really not as good as they used to be, and this movie definitely proves that. This film is directed by a man named, I'm probably gonna butcher his name really bad here, but it's pronounced, I believe, F.W. Murnau. That's my best shot. That's the best way I can pronounce it. But, yeah, this dude directed this movie. He sadly died at a very young age and has made not a lot of movies, but this is his most popular one. But yeah, guys, this movie it's really, really good. Basically, the story to this film is it follows a man named Thomas Hutter, who is a real estate agent, and he is told by a specific person that there is a man living in Transylvania, and that he should offer that man the house across the street from Thomas's house because there is nobody living in it. So he travels all the way to Transylvania to the castle where Count Orlok is, and Count Orlok is the man he is selling the house to. So he stays at Count Orlok's castle for a couple of nights, I believe, and yeah, it's pretty safe to say at this point that spoiler alert if you don't know the story of Nosferatu, but he's a vampire. Oh, wow, what a shocker. But no, really, yeah, he's a vampire, and basically, yeah, he's Dracula. You know, it's, again, an unauthorized adaptation to Bram Stoker's Dracula, so technically he is Dracula, but they used a different name for him, so they call him Nosferatu. And it isn't until after he actually sells the house to Count Orlok that he finds out that he's a vampire. So Count Orlok is, you know, his way to where Thomas's hometown is, and there's this big breakout in the town where people are going crazy because they think there's this plague going around where if you have 2 holes in your neck, you know, that means that you are affected by the plague. But of course, little do these people know that this is no plague. This is, in fact, Count Orlok, who is sucking people's blood because he's a vampire, and that's what vampires do. So Thomas has to find a way to stop Count Orlok from traumatizing his town, and basically that's the story. And honestly, that story sounds so much better than most horror movies that come out today. And I think that's the thing that surprised me the most about this movie is, you know, the whole story, the concept, the idea of this movie. It just seems very clever to me, especially in the fact that this movie was released in 1922. This is technically, you know, one of the first horror films. But yeah, as I mentioned, this movie is very, very creepy. And the one thing that creeped me out the most in this film is Count Orlok himself. Count Orlok is played by a man named Max Schreck, and Max Schreck did an incredible job. Am I pronouncing that right? I really do think his name is Max Schreck. It's S-C-H-R-E-C-K, so it's just kind of a weird way of spelling Shrek, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm calling him Max Schreck. Yeah, this dude did an awesome job playing Nosferatu. He is creepy as hell, and I think the reason why he's so creepy is, you know, just he's very slender and he's very tall and just he has such an evil looking face. Like I'm sure all of you have seen Nosferatu's face. Like that dude is freaking creepy. And seeing him in action in this film, like it's creepy. It's even more creepy. Like there were actually some scenes in here that legitimately freaked me out. For example, there's a scene where, you know, the door, you know, opens itself and Nosferatu is slowly, you know, coming up to the camera and walking into the room, and that scene alone creeped me out. And just keep in mind that all of this was filmed in 1922, so, like, that's pretty impressive. And like I said, I really do think this movie is way ahead of its time, and I can definitely see why people, you know, call this one of the best horror films of all time. And yeah, I guess in a way what they did was wrong, you know, what's his name? F.W. Murnau kinda, you know, he pretty much just stole Bram Stoker's idea, and he just kind of, you know, used it in his movie. However, it's not like a direct adaptation to the novel. Like I said, it's, you know, he did change a couple of things, but for the most part he did steal this idea and he did manage to get away with it, which I'm sure really pissed a lot of people off. But honestly, after seeing this movie, this is actually, you know, better than, you know, the 1931 Dracula in my opinion. So yeah, this dude got really lucky because he made a pretty badass horror movie here. And also another interesting thing about this movie is, spoiler alert, even though it's not a spoiler alert because this movie's been out for almost 100 years now and you should know what happens. Towards the end, Nosferatu dies by being, you know, touched by lights. You know, the sunlight, the sun comes up and it touches Nosferatu and, you know, he turns into smoke and he just pretty much just dies. That was not in Bram Stoker's Dracula. As a matter of fact, F.W. Murnau, I have a really hard time pronouncing his name, made up that idea himself, that vampires are affected by sunlight. So that's, you know, how the whole thing began of vampires being, you know, affected by sunlight and how they can't be, you know, touched by the sun. So I just thought that was very interesting that, you know, he kind of started that whole trend of vampires in sunlight because that never was a thing until this movie. But yeah, guys, like I said, this film is incredibly well made. It is way ahead of its time. I was really surprised by it. I have really no problems with this movie at all. It really is like a near perfect movie for me. I guess if there is a problem I had with this movie, it's the fact that, Count Orlok himself didn't have, you know, a lot of screen time, but I mean, again, that's an extremely minor problem. This film was made in 1920, so I should definitely give it a break, but yeah, he needed a little bit more screen time, but honestly, that's, you know, not a very big thing. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, it is kind of a good thing that he doesn't have too much screen time because, you know, when it does show him, you know, it just adds more creepiness to it because you're like, oh, there he is, oh crap. And the dude's creepy, like I said, so yeah, I guess that is a good thing. So no, I guess I really have no problems with this movie at all. Guys, not only is this the best vampire film ever made, but honestly, this is coming from me. I'm not making this official, but this is one of the best horror films ever made, in my opinion. This film is phenomenal. And I'm not quite sure yet. I don't know. I might have to watch it a couple more times, but this may even be one of my favorite movies, honestly. Again, this movie kind of has to grow on me in order for it to become one of my favorite films, but yeah, if it does, it definitely will be. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is actually one of my favorite films, so I don't see why this can't be one of my favorite films. So yeah, guys, if you haven't seen Nosferatu yet, then what are you doing with your life? Go see this movie. It's free on YouTube. Just find it and watch it. Like, this film is amazing, and I have nothing else to say about it. I'm giving this film a perfect 5 out of 5. It's flat out amazing. I loved it. Like I said, I had no problems with this movie. It is near perfect, and it's a phenomenal film, and I am highly recommending you guys, horror fan or not, to check out this movie. And if you are a horror fan, then you should have watched this movie by now. And I know I shouldn't be saying that since I just watched this movie the first time a couple of days ago, but seriously, if you're a horror fan, you have to watch this movie. And also, I'm hearing rumors that they are remaking this movie. I know Werner Herzog, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, remade the movie not too long ago. I still haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's not as good as this one. But I hear they're remaking it, and the man who is remaking it is Robert Eggers, or Eggers. He's the guy who made the new film The Witch, which I haven't yet seen, and I don't think it came out yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. I saw the trailer and it looks really good, honestly. Rumor has it that that guy's remaking this film, and honestly, I am really looking forward to it. You know, I haven't seen a single film from this guy, and I already like him, you know? I can already see his style, so yeah, I'm looking forward to this guy's movies, and I am, of course, looking forward to the Nosferatu remake. But yeah, guys, that's about it. Check out Nosferatu if you haven't yet. It's a classic. It's one of the greatest horror films ever made. Just watch it. Alright, guys, that is about it for this review. Sorry it was a bit lengthy. I just kind of had a lot to say about it, and I'm glad I got all that out of my system. But yeah, check it out. Seriously, this movie's awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Jacob Palacio, and I will see you guys later.